First thing I want to say about the bill itself, it's been around for a long time. So I didn't think of this. I inherited this bill when I got to Harrisburg and showed a little interest in environmental issues. And because it's important, you know, we keep pushing it along. It's been 4.5 years for me, but inch by inch, we've gotten to the point now. We've reintroduced this bill with some updates, and we have a process in place. So today we announced the bill. It's been introduced this week in Harrisburg. Chairman Greg Vitale of the Environmental Resources and Energy Committee. Imagine in Pennsylvania we say environmental resources and energy at the same time, but we do. And so we have the press event today, and we're looking forward to a committee hearing in July. So that's moving along. I was fortunate to be able to add a few things, and I'm very fortunate to have all these people assembled today to really talk about the meaningfulness of all this. But one of the things I should mention, because we're here along the Skipback Creek, and it's the Perkiomen watershed, and this is a direct interest in other ways for all of the residents around here, is that we've had 3 major storms in the last 20 months, 2 years, and that dramatically told us, you know, if you look behind, we have a very gentle low water Skipback Creek today, and in the middle of Hurricane Ida, we would be 10 feet underwater where we're standing, and a sycamore tree the size of a house would go left or right downstream as fast as you could turn your head. So the power of the torrent of that creek got everybody's attention, and then unfortunately also got to 74 family homes. That's not the businesses, that's just the residential homes, some of which were lifted off their foundations and went 100 yards downstream into somebody else's backyard. So enormously powerful storms, because these riparian buffers are part of how you contain water, collect water, create all the benefits of clean water and native habitat and all of those things. Instead, we pretty much try to get the water into the creek as fast as possible and out of here, and that's not how it works. So this bill sort of becomes more important in both ways, right? Environmentally, and then you know, economically, and for safety reasons, and for all the people who care about the creeks and rivers and their own backyards. I want to admit that there's an opportunity here, and that is that in Harrisburg, in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, we have a majority of 1, but we have a majority. And so the agenda changes dramatically, and that will allow us to get some momentum around a bill like the riparian buffer bill. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what a riparian buffer is, because I think the group behind me is going to cover that. What I do want to point out is, if you look around, this is pretty good, right? It's not great, but it's pretty good. Unfortunately, there's a blacktop road, you know, right there. And as you can see, we mow this meadow, but if you look across the parking lot, there's another section where the park is actually practicing, letting it grow and practicing low mowing. I don't think they mow that till September. So, you know, pretty good. Here's what the bill would do itself, and that's, I think, my role today is to talk about it a little bit. Basically, the bill would protect this space left and right of the creek by about 100 feet. It protects it from development. It protects it from, impermeable kinds of parking spaces and blacktops and things like that, so that water seeps into the earth and refills the earth. And then it gets complicated, right? If it's an impaired waterway, we can increase that to 150 feet. If it's an exceptional waterway, upstate with clear waters and trout streams and native, brown trout, it would be 300 feet. If you look across the creek, it's a very steep slope down with trees that are leaning over the creek, creating cooler waters, right? So the slope of the area could come into play on a steep slope like that, and then proportionally the space that would be preserved grows a little bit because that water can be moving fast as it comes down a slope. Real simple, right? The other thing I'll point out that the bill does from there, a whole lot to consider, right? Tree cutting, tree planting, residential homes that already exist, variances, enforcement, all of the things that go with making good government in Pennsylvania. It's all in here, mostly because the people behind me helped write it, and then mostly because there are individuals like Chairman Vitale who really care about getting these things done and gives us the opportunity. So it's a big bill, serious and enormously positive consequences for all of us, but a big bill whose time has come. And that's why it's exciting to be here this morning and have some of these speakers address us. So let's get to that part. And I'll start just briefly. Our first speaker is going to be the Delaware River Keeper, Maya Van Rossum. And Maya is also, and it was very interesting, she came up and introduced herself, and Ryan immediately said, "I'm reading your book," and she's also the founder of the Green Amendment. So looking forward to your comments.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's really exciting to be here today because, as I said to Representative Webster, I've had the good fortune of having the opportunity to work towards this moment for nearly 15 years now, really been literally working on this bill and the language of this bill. And to have Representative Webster be the one to bring it forth, such a powerful champion for the environment since he's been in office, is just really wonderful. And I know he's going to be a positive, powerful force for this critical protection of our buffers and our waterways, and with his leadership, I think we're going to be able to get this over the finish line. So I just want to thank him for, bringing us all to this moment, because we've had, a couple of weeks of pretty tough news when it's come to the environment coming out of the federal government, with the Sackett decision coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court undermining wetlands protections, and then in the debt ceiling bill, there's been some really damaging amendments to the National Environmental Policy Act and a Mountain Valley Pipeline frac gas pipeline project that's literally been forced through the process and is being exempt from all critical environmental protections. And so communities are really going to suffer. So to be able to be here today with this really powerful positive news is really, really wonderful. Now, whether you care about the environment, whether you care about the health and the safety of our communities, whether you care about jobs and economic development, this legislation is providing basic protections, for riverside buffers is essential and will advance your goal and your agenda. Riparian buffers are critical for protecting communities from flooding and pollution, but not just any buffer will do to accomplish that. You need a buffer that's filled with healthy native vegetation and has a meaningful, scientifically sound width that will ensure that it can provide the many benefits that healthy buffers provide. The most current science shows, and this is what is reflected in Representative Webster's bill, the most current science shows that healthy native buffers, preferably forested buffers, that are a minimum of a 100-foot width are essential to properly protect our waterways and the health and the safety of our communities. When we have minimum 100-foot buffers, there is effective filtering out of pollution that would otherwise run off the landscape and enter into our waterways, right? So we're keeping pollution out of our waterways. But at the same time, these 100-foot buffers also ensure healthy native ecosystems in the stream. So those ecosystems can actually filter out the pollution that's already made its way there. And as a result, we're protecting the quality of our streams. We're also protecting the quality of our drinking water supplies. Buffers decrease flood damages by reducing the volume and the peak of floodwaters. They also ensure that we're not building too close to the stream so that people are literally placing themselves in the path of floods when those waters do rise, and they will rise, right? Floodplains are called floodplains for a reason, because they flood. And so we'd like to keep them out. And this buffer protection will help ensure people are a safe distance from the creek so they don't suffer those flooding damages. Buffers prevent erosion of stream banks, and that means we're preventing the erosion of public and private lands, right? So that's literally saving property and saving money. But if we're preventing erosion, we're also preventing the undermining of infrastructure, things like roads and bridges. That it preserves safety, but it also preserves money when it comes to our state budget and needing to protect this infrastructure. Buffers ensure healthy fish and beautiful scenery, which support the multi-million-dollar businesses dependent upon fishing and birding and boating and other ecotourism in the state. Buffers increase the marketability and the market value of nearby homes by as much as 30% has been demonstrated. Buffers are carbon sinks, so they help us address the growing climate crisis. And the kind of meaningful buffer protection that we're talking about here also will reduce the cost of flood insurance for nearby homeowners. One recent economic study by the Delaware Riverkeeper Network shows that when you look at all of these kinds of economic values, buffers provide over $10,000 per acre per year of economic benefit. All the way around, right? Just thinking about how to wrap this up. All the way around, when we better protect our buffers in the way science says we need to, which is what's happening with this legislation, we provide all of these critical benefits for the people of Pennsylvania. Right now, there is no science-based minimum buffer in Pennsylvania legislation or regulation. Representative Webster's legislation remedies that. It fixes that. It makes science our guide. And so I think that I'm gonna end where I began. And I'll say it again, whether you care about the environment, whether you care about the health and safety of our communities, whether you care about jobs and economic development, this legislation is critical for helping to accomplish your goal. Thank you so much, Representative Webster, for making it happen.